Hey friends, welcome to Make Anything. I'm Devin, and for the past several months I've been sharing these giant numbers I was building for what I've called the Numbers Project. Basically, I was asked to make all these giant wooden numbers for a living space in Los Angeles, and I've shared the numbers 1 through 6 so far, but I was actually building a lot more than just those 6 numbers. 24 total. Now, this was a real project with real deadlines, so all those numbers are already wrapped up and ready to ship. But I did still want to share some of the insights, tips, and tricks that I learned while making all of these numbers, and that's what today's video is about. We're gonna have a whole show and tell, mashing together all of my numbers, all these different techniques, and there's still a lot of cool ones to share with you today, so let's get right into it. Cool. Let's start back up at the number 1. Where we have this piece being cut out on the CNC, and it looks a lot like the very first one that I shared with you guys. It was meant to be pretty much exactly the same, but there were some issues with the CNC not retracting properly, which led to some ugly scars on the top surface. So that messed up the top painted surface. I just shaved it off entirely with the CNC, leaving me with this completely wooden piece. Then I used a hard rubber roller to try to roll paint onto the top surface, but when some of that dripped down into the channels, I accepted my fate and ended up just painting the entire piece. Here's one that I did in yellow, and as you can see, even though it's all painted one color, there is still a lot of texture being shown just by the shadows that are cast from the way that this was cut. Here's that first number 1 that I shared with you guys, so as you can see, there is quite a difference between these two versions now. And of course, I'm still a real big fan of this combination of paint and raw wood, but I think all of the ones turned out pretty cool. Next, there's this screwed number 2 that I shared with you a while back. This is the largest number I made since it's on a giant rectangular panel, and I made some smaller versions that are similar, except quite the opposite. I have screws all around the number 2, and then the number itself is just the bare paint. Other than that, the process was pretty much the same, just hundreds and hundreds of screws. And here's how those inverted number 2s turned out. One of my absolute favorites is this number 3 here, this layered recursive 3 as I called it. Here we have another number made with the same technique. It is another number 3, but this is for the second building, so it's got the colors all switched up. I'm also really happy about how this one turned out, so between those two 3s, it's a tough choice for me. And I also used the same technique once again for one of the number 6s. This one I gave a kind of swirl design, which looks like a whirlpool or a Tide Pod. These numbers can't come off the wall too far, so I really liked using this layered technique to create an illusion of more depth than I was actually able to have. You may remember this number 4, which was made with these 3D printed joints. And in the original video for this joint 4, I explained how I had this original design that I had to scrap because the 3D printed parts would not be strong enough to hold onto the wood. But I actually ended up coming back to that same design for this second joinery number 4 that I made. And as you see here, I did have these printed parts holding onto the wood, and I epoxied them into place, just as I did with the other number 4. But the secret here is that these printed joints aren't actually holding the wood pieces together. Instead, I used this plywood backing. I drove wood screws through the back into each of those wooden pieces, and that holds everything together in a very strong way. For the last 4, I did another one of these dowel numbers, which I also shared in my number 5 video earlier. This is another technique that was just so much fun that I couldn't help but do another, and the only difference here is that some of the pieces were left raw, so we just have this really striking grain on some of the raw wood dowels, which also adds a little more visual interest to this 4. Next up, I have several number 5s that I made using some new techniques I haven't shared at all. One thing that really helped elevate some of these numbers was this adhesive walnut veneer that I found on Amazon. This stuff was great because these sheets are large enough to cover my entire number in a single piece. The adhesive backing is super easy to apply, and then I just trimmed it up with my X-Acto knife, made it totally flush with my hand router, and sanded the edges to make it completely clean. Now I can treat it just like any other piece of walnut, so I gave it a coat of this dark walnut stain to give it a really dark, rich color. Now this piece is going to have two layers, that walnut backing and then a painted layer that goes on top. And for that I discovered this paint sprayer that my dad had hidden away. And this thing is awesome. It just uses watered down paint, which helps get a nice even coating. I was even able to create a bit of a gradient effect by applying a darker orange on top of the light orange base coat and focusing more on one side. And that created this splattered texture, which just adds a little bit more visual interest to this piece. Here's the final result with those two layers screwed together from the back, just like I did with that joinery 4. This next 5 used a similar technique, but since the top layer was only a 1/4 inch thick, I couldn't actually screw in from the back. Instead, I tried using double stick tape surrounded by wood glue. Except in this case, I got a bit sloppy. Glue started dripping, things got chaotic, but somehow I managed to clean things up and actually glue these two parts together without too much damage. I just had all these pieces of plywood stacked on top of those 2 layers overnight, which sandwiched it into place while that glue dried, and I was left without too much damage. You'll see I already painted the parts that are going to be against the wood, but for this outer edge, I ended up working on it after I already glued the layers together. That's going to help me get a nice seamless outer edge, but it was also a bit messy. So in order to protect my wood, I ended up creating some paper masks. It would have been easier to do this before I glued it together by just tracing the holes that I cut out of that top layer. But since I had already glued them together, I just used a crayon to transfer the edges onto the paper like so, and then I cut out the paper to make a pretty well-fitting mask. I'll just press that into place, and it's not completely precise, but it's good enough to protect the wood while I finish working on the painted areas of this number. I kept working on that outer edge with wood fill and sanding and then finally painting to create this really nice seamless edge. Now I can remove those paper masks and clean away any of the dust that got underneath that paper, and then I finished it off with several coats of polyurethane spray. Here's the final number, and once again I used these 2 layers to create a kind of illusion of shading and depth to make this number more dimensional than it actually is. Now with the earlier number videos, a lot of you were asking me to 3D print some of these numbers. And generally I avoided that because these numbers are large and 3D printing large things is difficult. But with this next 5, I actually did use a good amount of 3D printing with these panels I printed out using an exposed infill. It's Cura's gyroid fill, and I printed these out to combine with one of my plywood pieces. For this one I just stained the plywood itself. I didn't use a veneer as I did with some of the other 5s, because you're barely gonna see the wood here through the 3D prints. So for the sake of cost, I just stained the plywood directly, and honestly that still ends up looking really nice. So these printed parts actually nestle within this frame, like so, and then I'll use epoxy to glue all of this together and stick it on top of that stained wooden part. I'll be holding these together using this BSI 30-minute epoxy. And this is gonna sound silly, but I just always used 5-minute epoxy because that's what we used in college, and I never even considered the fact that I could get a 30-minute epoxy, which is just so much easier to work with, especially with large pieces like this. I was always rushing to get things done in 5 minutes, but with this 30-minute epoxy, it's just that extra time that I really need for something like this. I also tried a new technique for myself when it came to applying the epoxy by using these giant plastic syringes, sucking up the epoxy after mixing it, and then squeezing it into the edges of my number like so. That actually worked really well and helped me deal with the messiness of epoxy, at least a little bit better than I normally do. There I am dropping in the back piece once all the epoxy was in place. Then I flipped everything over, made sure that the 3D printed parts were nice and nestled, and that's it. This one looks especially cool up close, and you can see that stained wood just hidden underneath these crazy gyroid infill patterns. For my final number 5, I had to glue together this huge block of solid alderwood because we're going to be doing some engraving. And I decided to try another really fun new technique which allows me to create multicolor engravings. To start out, I used just the very tip of this engraving bit to create these really shallow and thin grooves just to mark the borders between the different colors that I'll be engraving. As you can see, we have all these concentric lines following the number 5, and I'm going to make each of these rows a different color. I'm using a pencil here to trace my block of wood. That way I can remove it from the CNC and then place it back later in the exact same position. Now we can go ahead and paint all of these rows different colors, and those little grooves we cut are just enough to help us stay within the lines and keep our colors separate. Now I'll do a quick intermediary coat of polyurethane over this paint just to help make it a little more durable. And then we're gonna actually bring this piece back onto the CNC, using that outline I traced to get the position just right. This way, as long as I have the same 0 point, I can keep working on this piece with the CNC as if I never took it off to paint it. And that's how I cut this second pass. I use the same exact end mill and I follow the same outlines between the colors, but this time I make the cuts just a little more deep and a little more wide, and that's gonna give me a brand new clean edge between each of these colors. Only now will we cut the outline for this number 5 by switching back to a straight flat end mill and running a third operation that follows the outline of our number 5. Now this is a pretty thick piece of wood, so I wasn't actually able to cut all the way through on the CNC. So I used my bandsaw to finish that cut, and then I used the table router to make it flush. Here's how the number turned out, and I couldn't be happier. It just looks so cool. I really love this engraving technique, which allowed me to get all these different colors and have really clean edges between all of them. And it actually wasn't that difficult, so I decided to do the exact same thing for another number 6. Unfortunately, I've continued having some issues with my CNC jamming from time to time. In this case, I had to revise my cut to make the outline a little smaller, and that's why we have this thin dark blue outline, but it actually ended up looking pretty nice. Another problem I faced were these white splotches you can see in the middle of the screen. These are caused by the polyurethane being exposed to moisture, so it seems like for this particular color, I didn't let the paint dry quite enough. And in a somewhat drastic measure to save it, I decided to run over this polyurethane with some 320 grit sandpaper to try to smooth that down before going over it with a fresh coat of polyurethane. And that was scary, but believe it or not, once I got that fresh coat of polyurethane on there, it dried out and you wouldn't even know that I sanded it down. It came out looking really nice and smooth and shiny. So once again, here's that 30-degree end mill that I used to create these triangular grooves. But the really cool part of these pointy bits is that you can create multiple widths depending on how deep you engrave. And that's something I took advantage of for this next number. But before we engrave, I'm gonna start by prepping this piece of plywood with a color wash. To do that, I created a mixture of water and paint. So here we have about 1 part water for every 3 parts paint, and then I applied it using this terry cloth sponge. By thinning the paint down with water, we can still see the grain of the wood underneath the color, which is pretty nice. With this panel, I just wanted a lot of texture, so on top of that wash, I did some dry brushing with a darker blue to get this more messy, grungy texture. Once I prepared that plywood, I brought it to the CNC, and then I used that engraving bit to create this really cool halftone pattern. So on the top right, we have larger circles, and then they get smaller and smaller as we move down to the left, and that creates this kind of gradient effect. I also used the same color washing effect to make this chain stitch number 6. I shared a very similar chain stitch number 6 in my last numbers video, and this one was essentially made the same way, besides adding that color to the wood, and I also printed out this little tool which made it easier for Natalie to do the stitching. This tool made it so much easier to grab the paracord from underneath the number, and it made this job a lot quicker. So if you're planning to try this chain stitching technique yourself, I will make the file for this little stitching tool available for you to download in 3D print for free from My Mini Factory. And here's that final number, all stitched together. All right, well, that just about sums it up for today's show and tell. I hope you enjoyed the extra information and all these numbers I've been working on. By now I've made so many, so I'd love to know which one number was your absolute favorite. Let me know in the comments. It's been quite a journey, a big learning experience because I was doing so many techniques that I haven't done before. But I'm excited to switch things up and try some completely different things going forward here on Make Anything. So if you're interested in seeing what I do, make sure you're subscribed. And that's it for today. So until next time, I'm Devin, this is Make Anything, and as always, stay inspired.